I'll make sure this is unlisted. Unlisted. All right, sorry. Sorry, tuning in. Got a new angle. Camera's in. You can see it's a wider shot. You can see my desk now, so you can watch me eat this while I wait for people to show up. For watching later on, I apologize for eating in front of you. Had a bit of a busy day. Continue to have, every day's a busy day for me. It'll slow down, hopefully, in the very near future. So, if you're watching on the recast or whatever, repeat, you can skip forward a few minutes while I eat apples and wait for people to show up. Just having fun with this new angle with everything. New angle, new mic. So new angle makes it so I can have a little bit more of the dynamic of my fancy new microphone. I just went to my computer to type answers to... I need to get my mind focused in the right spot. Sorry. Finished getting my apple while waiting for people. All right. Andy says, hello. Hello, Andy. Thank you so much for joining in. Rich Reviews. If Chapter 2 is a success, could we see an It Chapter 3? I don't know, because I haven't seen It Chapter 2. I would imagine that... I would imagine that would be a pretty big stretch given the clout of Stephen King. I don't know where it ends. It doesn't seem like he's interested in doing a part 3, so I would not sure what that would mean. And it would be set 27 years in the future, I believe is the number. It appears every 27 years, I think is what it is, or 28 years. And so that would mean that it would have to take place. It would be a sci-fi movie because it would be with demon or Pennywise, whatever interdimensional creature. So that's kind of interesting in of itself. If they were like, this was such a big hit, let's set one in, you know, right around the year 2050. So maybe that would be a really interesting idea for a film. So now that you mention it, I'm almost kind of fascinated by this concept. Cody Watson says, yo, new patron member here. Hey, Cody, thanks so much for tuning in. The fun thing about these is that I really can. I see your name, and if you're here each week, we're going to have our back and forth, and I'll get to know you a little bit, and as you ask your questions, I'll talk, and I can get backed up a little bit, but I actually can read everything and respond back to everybody. Rich Reviews says, considering you're a massive fan, would you ever want to be on The Bachelor, Bachelorette? Well, there's a couple problems in this. First off, as you are well aware, I kind of hate The Bachelorette and The Bachelor. I think that they're... someone that believes in the institute of marriage and its value set, and shows like that I think are just horrible for marriage. I mean, they make a show out of it, and so if you're wondering what I'm doing now that I'm looking at this angle, you can actually see that I fidget all. My hands are normally out of frame, so you can't catch me fidgeting. But I mean, I think they make a mockery of marriage, and that's not something I'm okay with. But and then beyond that, I'm already married. So that wouldn't work so well to be on The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. And then beyond that, I would not be interested in any of the people associated with this show. I would not be interested in being in a relationship like someone that's like the idea that I'm competing against all these other guys for a girl and she's making out with all these other guys, or, you know, fooling around in the bushes over there and then fools around with me. I'm not interested in her because of that. Like, there's no interest in me or the idea that if I was like the guy with all the girls vying for me and I'm making out with all of them, any girl that was okay with me making out with all of them and then picking them, I wouldn't be interested in a girl like that. So fundamentally built into it, I think just the concept is, you know, I got to learn how to not do that. Built into it is the concept is so far away from anything I would ever remotely be interested in. Andy says, when editing videos, do you ever have a problem with the audio and visuals not lining up? Yeah, so I don't know how you're recording, but I had that every time I record with this. So, this is my webcam that we're shooting with right now. It's, you know, I'm obviously streaming, not recording. But for years, the first 3 years of my channel, up until the beginning of June, I got this 2 months ago. I upgraded 2 months ago. That's why I've been doing 1080. Before that, I used this webcam, or this one right over here, actually, and recorded directly into QuickTime. And there was always a there was always a delay. They were always out of sync. So what I would do at the start of recording is I'd hit record and I would go like that. Or I'd go And I don't know what you're editing with, but you can, with Adobe Premiere, you can go into it and say unlink audio and video. And then you can just look for where that spike is in the audio wave, and you look for where the hands come together, and you just sync the two up, and then you sync them, go back into the right click, and you can sync the two back up. And that's what I had to do for up until I got this camera. That's what I had to do for every single one of my videos. So about 800 videos, I had to manually sync them up. David, will any movies from the past 7 months get any major Oscar consideration? I mean, it's always tough to know because you don't know what's going to come out. But so we had a Tarantino just come out, so naturally Tarantino's going to be in that discussion. I would imagine Midsummer's probably going to get some technical discussion, but I don't know. You guys might be able to throw some out there. Of course, on the special effects side of things, you'll get a bunch of them. It looks like they're wanting to do a big push for Robert Downey Jr. I mean, they're laying it on pretty thick with the Robert Downey Jr. love. So I could see something happening with that. So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts. Throw them down in the little chat, dealio. Rich Reviews, thoughts on Stephen King writing a new ending for a new TV series for The Stand? I don't know. I haven't read the original book. I haven't seen the original miniseries. So, you know, it doesn't mean anything to me that he's doing, or like I don't have any specific thoughts on what that would mean. So I can't really dive into my thoughts on Stephen King doing something about something that I don't know much about. And I don't know his reasoning. Because they're different formats. A book versus a TV series is different. I don't know how much political or how much cultural elements were tied into the original material that 30 years of time passing would make him go, okay, we should factor this in. I just don't know enough about it to be able to have any sort of thoughts. Rich Reviews, going to the beach next weekend for a week. Very cool. I'll actually probably, later this month, whenever school starts back up, I think I'm going to take a week off, take a little bit off to whenever it slows down. Like, there's no good movies that come out for 1 week. Everybody in Hollywood's like, yeah, when they go back to school, nobody will goes to the movies. So I'll probably take that week off, I think, and just try and, you know, reestablish stability at home and everything like that. What you know? Hey, you're live. What do you know? I am live. It's pretty exciting. And actually, I didn't mention this yet in here. If you didn't notice, obviously we got this new mic that's kind of on this boom arm. And then here's my old mic that I normally use, that I still use at for my main videos. So I'm looking to start a podcast jumping forward about 6 weeks from now. So I'm starting to put all the pieces together and experiment with everything. So you guys, right now, this is the first time, and I want to do it, I want to record it live. So that's even kind of wanted the boom arm to have the aesthetic look that's a little bit different from my normal stuff. I'm going to build a second set over there. But I bought the boom arm, the mic, even the cool shock mount deal for all aesthetic reasons. And you guys are the first people seeing it. You guys are the first people to see kind of what I'm working towards with the live stuff. So this live stream right here, right now, is actually kind of important for the future where my channel's going in regards to some stuff that I'm experimenting with. And so there you go. Yeah, not only am I live, but it's kind of a little bit of an important one of sorts. Cody Watson, do you keep up with what movies you watch on what day? I started doing it before I saw Ready Player One. I don't keep track of what movies I see on what day. I keep track of all the movies that I watch. So I have and not all, I keep track of every individual movie. So I have a list of every film that I've seen this year, and I think I'm just shy of 300 at this point in time. I've seen Lego Movie 2 about 15 times. So that's only on the list once, though. So I don't count it if I watch it multiple times, but I try and track every movie that I do watch, and then I track which new movies I watch because I have an ongoing ranking for at the end of the year. So, but I don't track like on, you know, July 27th, I watched this. That's just, it's too much tracking that I wouldn't find useful or helpful later on. Cody Leach, what is worse, long, pretentious art house horror films and their fan base, or lazy, simple January, February horror films? Whew. That's a good question. So we're talking about horror films and the kind of the two opposite spectrums. You've got the pretentious ones that are the Midsummers that, you know, they're art house and that you know, they're presenting themselves as being super important. And then on the other side, you've got these just overtly lazy horror films released in the month of January. In terms of which one is as just films in and of themselves, I'd say the lazy ones are worse. Because I can at least respect that someone tried to do something with the art house pretentious stuff. And just because it's not for me doesn't mean there's not value in it. So I can appreciate that, like, this movie's for a specific type of person that's not me. But, well, actually, it's just as difficult talking about the audiences. The fan base of the kind of the pretentious art house, Ari Aster, that group of people, they kind of drive me crazy because anytime someone's in the comment section like, you just didn't get it. There's actually symbolism in here. And like, oh, you're driving me crazy. But then again, the fan base for these January movies it's its own, like, January horror movie audiences are some of the worst audiences out there. And me and you have had that conversation before, but like my stories about worst audiences are obnoxious people at a January horror film that was a lazy January horror film. So I don't know. Those are like, when you're talking about things that kind of annoy me a little bit, both of those are pretty intense. Cinematically, I can respect someone making something pretentious. Like, I had a lot of issues with Midsummer. I think there even was some laziness in the story. There's some incredible technical skill to them, whereas the January lazy horror films they're just lazy. Rich reviews. So upon seeing a trailer for Hustlers, I have to ask who in the world is, I lost it a little bit, Cardi B, and why is she famous? I don't know. I don't know who Cardi B is actually. I've heard the name. Hustlers, isn't that the one that came out back in May? So I don't even remember if she's in that movie. I thought maybe I'm getting confused on my movies, but Anne Hathaway and Rebel Wilson. So I don't know about Cardi B being in it. So, but I haven't seen it. So, and I don't know who Cardi B is. I've just heard the name. Yeah, I'm out of touch. There we go. What do you know? What dipping sauce do you use with fries? Well, so it kind of depends on my mood. Like if I'm at McDonald's, it's just ketchup. If I'm at Whataburger, they've got a spicy ketchup that's got a little kick to it. I use that one if at Whataburger. If I'm at Chick-fil-A, I get a barbecue and I get a sweet and sour, the Polynesian sauce. I get one of those too. And occasionally at Chick-fil-A, I'll get honey. So it's a very varied. It's not a single answer for that one. That's kind of what I'm actually like. I like a lot of variety and things. I like to change things up a little bit. So I'm not locked in. Like, this is the one way that I eat things. And then I'll get my food at Chick-fil-A and I'll get the different times I'll be like, I'll pour barbecue sauce on my sandwich. I'll pour Polynesian on my sandwich. I change it up a lot. Richie's favorite foreign movies. I was a huge fan of Hong Kong cinema for a long time. A lot of the John Woo stuff from the 80s before he came over to the US. A Better Tomorrow, The Killer, Hard Boiled. Big fan of those. A lot of Jackie Chan stuff from there. I was a big fan of. Likewise, like The Raid. I actually haven't seen The Raid 2. Like, I keep scheduling, like, my friends and I keep meaning to do one, and it just hasn't happened. So I've never seen The Raid 2, which is goofy, but that's the stuff I naturally kind of gravitate towards. More dramatic things that are foreign. It's a pretty heavy watch for me. That's not the amount of work to watch it, and it doesn't always translate well for me. But those are off the top of my head. Because I'm an action movie guy, those are the things that I naturally gravitate towards. Or I guess the Clint Eastwood spaghetti westerns would fall into that. So A Fistful of Dollars, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Hawaiian Shirts. Watched Wolf on Wall Street last night. One of my favorite movies. What's your opinion? I've actually never seen all of The Wolf of Wall Street. I've seen half of it. It's just one of those movies that I know that my wife wouldn't, she wouldn't make it through the movie. And so then it's one of those movies I have to watch when she's not around, and it just hasn't happened. The way the universe is kind of played out. So yeah, I just haven't watched it, unfortunately. Richie, what books are you currently reading? 1 million followers in 30 days. I just finished First Blood. So a week ago, 5 days ago, something like that. I finished listening to the audiobook of First Blood, the book that Rambo's based off of, which is, if you're a fan of the franchise, it's worth checking out just for kind of the novelty of this different take on it. Because in the only real big difference, I mean, there's certain little things here and there, but the thing that really matters is that Rambo kills people, like overtly murders people in the book First Blood. And that just, it totally changes the tone, the vibe of everything, because you can't really root for him as an underdog when he's killing people that don't deserve to be killed. They're bad guys, you want to see him punched in the face, but not like, gutted because they were told to shave him. And so wildly changes the vibe and who you're rooting for. The one I'm currently listening to is called 1 Million Followers. How I Built a Massive Social Media Following in 30 Days. I read go through a lot of books on marketing, social media, entrepreneurial type stuff like that. And so this is one on someone that in the last few years was able to get 1 million followers on Facebook in 30 days and kind of what he did to do that. So it's just kind of, some of it's social hacks, some of it's just kind of digging into the powerful tools of social media that a lot of people don't know about. So there you go. Rich Reviews, what are your top 5 A24 produced films? I don't know. I'd have to have a list of A24 movies in front of me. I know there's a lot of people that just eat up A24. If you just look at my channel, I gravitate towards mainstream franchise stuff. Not that I don't enjoy deeper type things, but it's just that's not the world I live in. So I don't know off the top of my head my top 5 A24 films. I would need a list in front of me, and I don't even know that I have a top 5. I wouldn't know that I do. Games and Groceries, finally able to make one of these. Awesome. Glad you could tune in. Rich Reviews, would love to appear on your podcast. So I don't even know what it's going to look like exactly of guests or anything like that. I just don't know yet. That's actually one of the things I mentioned taking a week off later this year to map some of that out of what I want the format to be before I launch it. And actually just yesterday started going through a book called The Podcast Journal that's 50 days before launch. So got a lot of things I'm working through on things like that. I don't know if I'll have guests. I don't know what any of that'll look like, but so people will know in the near future. David, favorite Christian movie? In general, I don't like Christian movies on principle for the same reason that I don't like any movie that gets preachy. And so, even like a movie like Blockers from last year, obviously not a Christian movie, but it gets preachy at times in it. It starts preaching its own worldview in its own ways. And so anytime a movie does that, it's pretty off-putting and built into being a Christian movie. Too many of them, by default, switch to telling you their worldview that rather than telling stories. So that's a starting point. So I tend to not like this genre, but like a couple years back, the Case for Christ movie I thought was pretty good because it didn't say its message via preaching at you. It was done through the actual story of Lee Strobel. And so then built into it, he was doing research, interviewing people and things like that. That was kind of his life story, and that's what the movie is. And so the title of it, The Case for Christ, isn't a very good title for the movie because it's really the Lee Strobel story. And I thought that one was handled pretty well. Oh. What you know, should we make Big Kahuna Burger in real life? Yes, I would love to have an actual Big Kahuna Burger. If you don't know what's been referred to there, Big Kahuna Burger's burger joint in the Tarantino verse that people go to Big Kahuna Burger. They talk about Big Kahuna Burger in the movies that he's directed, the movies that he's written, even like some of them that he didn't direct. He wrote it into the script and things like that. So there's a whole sequence in Pulp Fiction when they're eating a burger right before Samuel Jackson quotes a fake Bible verse and shoots people in the face. And it's like, oh, Big Kahuna Burger. There you go. That's Big Kahuna Burger. I want one in real life. Wearing shirts. Did you see Jay and Silent Bob reboot trailer? Looks so funny. I haven't. No. If I don't do a trailer reaction for a trailer, a lot of times I don't watch them. I don't watch them until I see them in the theater because I'd rather have the proper experience. And even like a funny trailer, I want to have people around me. If it's a big blockbuster, I'd rather see it on the big screen. So if I don't do a trailer reaction, I kind of intentionally skip out on watching them for that reason. Rich Reviews, how many films have you watched versus reviewed? I mean, that's a really tough question because I would claim that my rankings aren't reviews. They're mini reviews using comparative language, but they're intended as short reviews of the films where I'm thinking about them the same way that I review a film, just using language, comparing them to other films. I think according to my demographics, or according to my research, I've done watched about 300 movies this year. I've posted a review for about 55 movies this year. But how many movies I've talked about in my rankings, it's probably like 150 movies. I don't really know. It's a ton of movies. Because you just think my Marvel ranking was 58 movies just by itself. Pixar added on top. You do Pixar, and that jumps you, 60 plus 22, gets you to about 80. And then you do Child's Play movies plus Illumination, we're at 100 movies, and that's like 4 of my rankings. So maybe it's more than that. I'm not really sure, but I would say that I've reviewed probably over 150, 200 movies this year. And most of those movies that I watched out of that 300 was for a ranking. So, or to review it. There's not a lot that I just watched randomly. So maybe it is like 250. I don't really know. David, since you're now getting that Disney money, you should rank all the Disney movies from 2019. Yeah, I'd have to think about it if there's something specific that comes from ranking them in that manner. That's the way, like with my ranking, sometimes it's tricky because I have to think through, what are the ways that people kind of look at, how do they categorize them? So obviously MCU makes sense. Or looking at, all the comic book movies of the year, that makes sense. It gets tricky with Disney because they're so different and they're so already kind of touched on. So, Star Wars compared to MCU, like, is there anything that's really specifically interesting about the fact that they're Disney is that distinctly create a topic of conversation inside of them? So the one that I'm about to post, once this video stream is done, would be my Fast and Furious. And even inside of that, Hobbs and Shaw, I had to debate a little bit. I'm ranking this as a Fast and Furious movie. And I had to think, I don't think it's as strong as just a Fast and Furious movie, despite the fact that it's very entertaining. And that kind of factored into where I ranked it because I was ranking them as Fast and Furious movies. Does ranking them as Disney movies help in that regard? So that's how I kind of think about some of this stuff. Do I have something new to add if I put them in this category versus these other categories? And sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It's kind of tricky to figure out how do I want to do all this stuff, how to do all of them. Rich Reviews, here's an I ranked idea, the animated Spider-Man series. The ones that get tricky with that is that the reason I can't do that is that to do that ranking, I have to watch 4, 5, I don't know how many, 6 different full TV shows to do one video. And there's not a lot of people out there that have actually watched all those TV shows. There's people out there that have, but how many of my subscribers do I think have actually fully watched all those TV shows? I don't think any of them have. If I were to take a bet on how many of my subscribers have watched every single episode of every Spider-Man cartoon in order to be able to rank them with authority, I don't think one of them has. And that's where I go, it's tough to do a ranking like that when I would have to do a massive amount of homework to do something that no one else has watched. I want my rankings to be something that we're having a group conversation. You guys have watched it too. You guys can join in with me. You're not just watching what I'm talking about. It's not just about me telling you what to think. No, it's here's my opinion about this thing you've already seen. What's your opinion about this thing that you've also seen? That's what I want them to be. And so that's a lot of times what some of the rankings that I just don't do them because I don't think other people have seen those movies or TV shows yet. And so I can't admit, I don't know that there's any, Batman or any of them that I could rank the different shows because I'd have to rewatch all of them to rank them with the authority that I do other things, which is to say I watch everything before I rank them. Games and Groceries, what podcast do you get inspiration from to structure your podcast? I don't yet. That's not a thing that's happened yet. I listen to a lot of podcasts, but I haven't listened to podcasts to try and figure out what I'm going to do for mine yet. I have certain things in my mind. My starting point of sorts would be kind of the work of John Campea, whether you're talking about historic movie talk, because I don't know what I haven't really watched the current version of Movie Talk in a couple of years, but the show that he did Movie Talk for when he was over for 5 years or so, or his current stuff. And the inspiration is mostly I'm inspired by what you're doing, but I want to make sure I'm not doing what you're doing. That's the thought in my mind of, you're talking about a lot of things I'd want to talk about, but I don't want to do it the way he's doing it because he's already there. He's already covered that. So how do I add to value? How do I do something that he's not doing, that someone else isn't doing, that's true to me, but can kind of touch on stuff? But there's not, that's somewhat what I'm looking to do this month is to just kind of do a lot of research on different podcasts to figure out what what can I bring to the table that's new and different? But I don't have a good answer just yet of specifics. I know in my mind, like certain things I want to do, the exact structure. That's what this month's for. Cody Watson, what was your opinion about Green Mile? I've never cried so hard during a movie. I haven't watched it recent enough. It's been over 10 years since I've watched The Green Mile. So I remember really liking it, enjoying it, it being emotional. At the same time, I don't really remember the plot of the movie since it's been that long since I've watched it. So unfortunately, I can't dive into it real specifically too much, unfortunately. Cody Watson, was Waterworld any good? I got it on a blind buy. Waterworld is a movie that it exists. It's there. And the movie itself is not nearly as interesting as everything else surrounding it. The tone's a little bit off because it's doing like Mad Max on water, but then parts of it are just super campy in a way that doesn't really mesh well with the Mad Max on water aspect. There is some cool action inside of it. There's things that do work well, but in general, it's a movie that, because it cost so much money and was the most expensive movie, for 6 months until Titanic came out, that there's just so many people making fun of it. And there's a scene where Kevin Costner drinks his own pee and his gills, and there's just goofy things about it. The people picked on it. The movie itself, just taken on its own rights, on face value, it's like, okay, that's an okay 90s movie that's kind of forgettable. So that's kind of the take on it. I haven't watched it in a very long time, but that's kind of was my take when I saw it in the theater. Then whenever I rewatched it a few years later, and every time I've seen it, I've been like, that's just kind of there. David, Waterworld is fine. Generic action film from the 90s. Universal Attraction Show is better. Universal Attraction Show is better. Kind of like you said. It's kind of, actually, you said pretty close to what I said. It's fine. It's a generic film from the 90s. And it's just this other stuff around it is the reason that people know what it is, because it costs so much money and kind of these few specific things. Dennis Hopper's super campy in it. And then, there's something about Kevin Costner drinking his own pee that's kind of alluring for a movie. Like, let's spend $200 million to have Kevin Costner drink his own pee. Well, that is an interesting choice. But in general, the movie itself, it's fine. Lost my place. Oh, so many questions. I got to catch up. Rich Reviews, would you be interested in seeing a Rambo film where he goes back to Hope, Washington? I mean, I'm kind of hoping he dies in Last Blood. That sounds kind of dark, but I think closing out his story with him dying, I think makes sense. He's just he's this troubled soul that does one final good thing and dies. He's a soldier and dies in combat doing something he believes in, where he gets to win, but he dies in the process. That feels right. I don't think that there's anything really more to explore with him in Hope, Washington. If you don't know, the First Blood storyline is that he's this Vietnam vet, kind of with PTSD, kind of drifting, trying to view all the people that were in his troop. And he goes to this city in Washington, and basically the sheriff tries to run him out of town. He's like, I just want some soup. I'm going to go back. I'm not going to be messed around with this guy. So he's arrested, and for just walking into the city for vagrancy, which, you hear it now and you're like, that's insane. And so then the police are giving him a hard time, and they start kind of getting abusive with him, one guy in particular. And so he snaps because he's got PTSD, and then starts, beating guys up, trying to escape because he's mentally snapped. So I don't think that there's anything to go back to in the city, because culturally things have changed. Brian Dennehy's character is probably dead. I mean, Brian Dennehy's like 85 years old, so he'd be a very old guy if he's still around. And so I just don't know that there's a story to tell about Rambo going back to that city. And it's not the city's fault. It's not like it was just very much a lot of culturally things that just aren't true anymore. Cody Watson. Okay, I heard it was really bad from others. Hope I don't waste my money. I mean, it's not really bad. It's, if you look at it, it's compared to its budget, compared to what it should have been for what they invested into it. By that standard, it's really bad. But as just a movie in and of itself, just on its own terms, it's just not that bad. Rich Reviews, thoughts on Showtime doing a Halo series? I don't know any specifics about it, but you know, they keep talking about trying to do Halo as a movie or whatever. If they got the budget to do it and they bring in a legitimate creative force to take it seriously, I think it could be interesting. But I think you have to have all those pieces. You have to have an actual creative force. You have to have someone that believes in the project, that's trying to do it right. You can't just be like, all right, yeah, let's do kind of a cheapy Halo. Like, nobody wants that. There's just no reason to do that. So, hope they do it right. Cody Watson, I consider Tom Cruise one of my favorite actors, but I've actually only seen the Mission Impossible series and Edge of Tomorrow. What are a couple of must-watch Cruise movies? Okay, must-watch Tom Cruise movies. This is... must-watch Tom Cruise movies. Okay. I'll kind of go through his career. You got to watch Risky Business. That's him as a high schooler, or playing a high schooler. He was out of high school. But, I mean, it's kind of a teenage party movie with Rebecca De Mornay. And so you see him as just this young guy. Very different role for him. You have to watch Top Gun. I mean, Top Gun, if you're a movie lover, you have to see Top Gun. It's just fantastic. I mean, 80s product type movie, the bromance, it's such an 80s thing. You have to see it. I don't know how, if you haven't, you're watching it for the first time in the year 2019, I don't know how you'll respond to it, but you have to see it. Then I would say The Firm and A Few Good Men. I love A Few Good Men. And I love The Firm too. But so The Firm is a John Grisham one where he's like a lawyer, gets wrapped up in this whole thing. And then A Few Good Men is another one where he's a lawyer, and it's based off an Aaron Sorkin play, and Aaron Sorkin wrote the script for it, and there's basically a guy dies on a military base, and it's supposedly because these two guys roughed him up, and so the mystery behind everything that happened, and it's a very cool little courtroom drama character study film. There's a ton in here. I mean, there's so many different movies because he really is one of the great movie stars of all time. And then you have to see Tropic Thunder. If you don't know he's not the star. He's not the star of the movie. If you don't know his part in Tropic Thunder, go into it and don't look it up. Go into this movie with knowing nothing about Tom Cruise's connections to the movie Tropic Thunder as best you can. And it's like a Ben Stiller directed... it's kind of an action movie, comedy, spoof on actors, all kinds of, it's a very interesting movie. One of the great celebrities shows up in a part, says Tom Cruise in that movie. If there's a way that you can see it without knowing his part, you will have a great little day. Andy says, "What my favorite part of YouTube so far is being a part of a community. Such an awesome way to make friends with the same passion, helping others succeed." Yeah, it really is kind of the fun part to it. I mean, I have a lot of friends in real life too, and there's a guy I go to the gym with 3 days per week. The people that I talk with daily though are people I met on YouTube. Whether that's on Twitter, whether that's Facebook groups I'm in, that's on here, the comment section. I met like, I don't know, probably 200 other creators, and about 50 of them I know pretty well and interact with on a very regular basis. So you make real friends, and I mean, it's not a competitive, I mean, there's a healthy competitive side to it. Like there's people that have been competitive with me at times, and I've been competitive with them, and I have my own goal. Like all that, of course, exists, but it's all healthy. There's not a lot of the toxic competition. So it's a neat little community to be a part of, and everyone wants to help everybody else out. It's very collaborative, and so it's pretty cool. Hawaiian Shirts, favorite superhero from Marvel and DC. From DC, it's Superman and Batman, one being the human hero that uses all of his abilities to make it so no one else faces the pain that he did. And then you have the god on Earth that's benevolent in Superman. Marvel, it's tough to say because there's so many different versions, and so different universes, I have different characters I resonate with in different ways. I don't really know on Marvel's side. Because it, like, in general, like Iron Man in the MCU, I think is fantastic, but it's not like I'm reading an Iron Man comic book. It's just in that universe they built a great character, gave him great character arcs, and have one of the legendary, iconic performances from Robert Downey Jr. So, no, I don't have a specific one that comes to mind. David says Tom Cruise, Jerry Maguire, another one. Yeah, I didn't mention Jerry Maguire. I was going off the top of my head. That's another. Just, you have to see Jerry Maguire. There's a lot of Tom Cruise movies you have to see, and they're so different. That's the thing. Like, you listed off, not the person I'm responding to, David, but I don't remember who mentioned it before. But you mentioned Edge of Tomorrow and Mission Impossible, and that's action star Tom Cruise, but he was drama guy before he was action guy. So he's done so much stuff beyond just stuntman crazy, will do anything Tom Cruise, and that's what makes him kind of maybe the greatest movie star of all time, or at least of the last 30 years. Games and Groceries, what are the best and worst comments you saw in your Marvel Ultimate Alliance review? Best and worst comments. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really pay close enough attention to that kind of thing. For basically this summer, I've backed off pretty heavily from being too plugged into the comment section of my videos. There's just too many comments that I can't respond to all of it. There's too many other things I'm busy doing that I can't just get super plugged in there. And then to read all the best and the worst, you have to read through all the toxic. And when you start getting 500 comments per day, 1,000 comments per day, if just 10% are toxic, if just 5% are toxic, you're talking about, that's a lot of toxicity to take in. And there's a lot of things that aren't even toxic. They're just things you misconstrue. And so I just had to back off a lot. But I wouldn't, there's not a lot of videos where I could look at them. Oh, here are the best and worst comments off of that one. So I really don't have any sort of specific answer to what you mentioned there. Rich Reviews, are you planning on watching any of the Apple Plus streaming series? I don't know. I don't know enough about them. I heard some things about some of the people that were involved that made me go, oh, that's kind of interesting. But I haven't seen like a trailer or anything more concrete. So it all comes down to the series itself. I don't decide generically, I'm going to watch them for this network. It's, do I enjoy this series? Am I interested in the concept of this series? So I'd have to see a trailer before I had a concrete answer on that. Once you know, what brand of popcorn is your favorite, and do you have seasoning on it? Oh, I mean, it's not just, let me Google this real quick. I'm just kind of blanking. It's not just that we have a specific brand. We have a specific package. So I think we exclusively do Pop Secret Home Style. We don't put any magic seasoning on top of it, but it's not uncommon that we would melt our own butter and put it on top of what they have on top of theirs, and then salt. So salt and then real butter melted and poured on top of it would be my answer on that one. Rich Reviews, are you excited for the Downton Abbey movie? No, of course not. I've never seen an episode of Downton Abbey. Back to things we've talked about many times before. Anything that's kind of that, period piece British stuff that's not, any period piece British stuff that's, a drama, it just doesn't interest me really at all. It's not tied to something. So I've never seen an episode of Downton Abbey, like, at all. And I've, everything I've seen of it, like, this does not interest me at all. Not remotely have I ever seen anything about, like, I've never even known what anyone else was the appeal for anyone about Downton Abbey. It's that far away from things that I care about or enjoy, generally speaking. Cody Watson, It Comes at Night with Joel Edgerton looked really interesting to me. Any good? It Comes at Night is a movie that makes you think. It's not the movie that it was marketed as, and it's not the movie that it seems like from the trailer or the synopsis. It's a paranoia thriller. So it's a movie that takes place in a world where there's creatures out there that come at night and there's danger in the world. But it's much more about the paranoia that causes in the people and how nobody can trust anyone anymore. You don't really know what's going on in the world, and they don't fully know. And so then you watch the movie with this sense of kind of dread and paranoia. So it's a film that I don't know that I'll ever rewatch. It's a film I'm glad I watched once. I've heard some people say that Cody Leach, who might be in here, he felt that the movie is very derivative of some other things he'd seen, and I hadn't seen the things that it was derivative of. So for me, it was like an experience like, okay, I didn't have fun watching that. It was like a punch to the gut multiple times throughout the film. And so I didn't enjoy that too much. But it was interesting in the way it was constructed, but very, like, I went in thinking it was going to be one thing, and I heard that it was like, oh, it's not what you're expecting. And then I watched it, and I was like, it's really not what I'm expecting. It's it's about the lack of trust in people because of all the stuff going on, that everyone's so desperate to save themselves that they're just scared of everybody else. Rich Reviews, are you excited for the Bruce Springsteen song-inspired Blinded by the Light? I think I saw the trailer once and it seemed interesting enough. I have been invited to the press screening for it, but it's at the same time as my, was it Scary Movies to Tell in the Dark? It's the same night, so I think I'm not going to be able to see it, I don't think, unfortunately. So, generically speaking, I'm mildly interested in it. I don't think I'm going to end up seeing it, though, just because it's coming at a point in time where I'm very busy. Sorry that I'm checking my phone at the moment. I have like a really important email that I need to... I'm in a weird position on my Fast and Furious video related to a sponsorship deal, so I'm not quite sure what to do. But anyway, it's things bouncing in my head at the moment. What do you know? What movie month is your least favorite? What movie month is your least favorite? September seemed pretty particularly drab to me. This year, I mean, well, like this year we get Rambo, so that's exciting. Then they'll also have It. So this one doesn't seem too bad. So I guess then I would go back to January is the other bad one. But September's a lot of times are really kind of barren wastelands of non-existent movies. This one seems to have some specific things that make it interesting. I'm also going to a film festival this September, so that could also make things a little bit more interesting for me because of that. So, those are some thoughts. Rich Reviews, do you listen to the podcast This American Life? No, not really. I think I've listened to a couple episodes, and I think I've listened to some of their other shows. I think didn't they do Serial? I listened to the first 2 seasons of Serial, and then they did S-Town, I believe. I could be confused. So I listened to S-Town as well. Olsen Downer, have you seen the Robert Downey Jr. movie, The Judge? So what's your thoughts? I have not seen it. I meant to see it. I just missed it. I heard lukewarm things about it. Like it wasn't as good as everyone kind of thought it might be from the trailer. And so then I just haven't seen it. Rich Reviews, thoughts on a Nancy Drew series on the CW? I mean, I'm not the target audience. I'm not like a Nancy Drew fan. And then generically, the CW is a network that puts out a lot of content that I'm just not the target audience. They aim for teenagers. I have not been a teenager for a long time. So, that just wouldn't be something I'd ever even be remotely interested in. On a more broad theoretical level, that makes me nervous. The nature of Nancy Drew being novels from 50 years ago or whatever, there's a certain value set to them that I don't think meshes with, the CW, what they try to do with every show now, and the nature of every show's about people hooking up and stuff like that. I don't want that to be Nancy Drew, but maybe I could be wrong, but I would assume that I would not like at all what they would do with it. And he says, thoughts on rumors that Falcon and Winter Soldier will feature the government not wanting Sam to be Captain America. So I haven't read any of these rumors, so I'll just kind of base it off of you asking a hypothetical question. I don't really know. It's tough to say because without having more context on that, because you could take that a few different ways. If the plot line is they don't want him to be Captain America because he's black, I hate that plot line. Like if it's a race thing, I hate it. If it's something about the nature of the Avengers and their reputation, or Steve Rogers' reputation, something like that, or tying back to just his story in and of itself, I could be interested. Generically speaking, it's kind of like I just would have to know more information. I don't naturally think to myself, oh, that sounds like a really cool plot line. And there's a couple things about it that, like, if it's a race thing, like, that's just not at all the direction that I would want Falcon and Winter Soldier to go, like, at all. And I don't know these rumors, so it's tough for me to elaborate too much. Cody Watson watched The Village recently and thought it was awesome, very underrated. Yeah, it's a movie that's always kind of disappointed me. I went into it wanting to love it, coming off Signs and Unbreakable and The Sixth Sense. Like, I went in as primed to just love it, and I've never have. It always felt to me like it felt like Shyamalan trying to outdo himself. Like, all right, I got to come up with another idea. And all right, I kind of got this thought right in my head, and that'd be my twist and turn. How do I get to that payoff? As opposed to having like a fully comprehensive thing that fits together. It never felt like a fully formed story that ties together with the twist. Like, the twist felt like a tacked on. There's the story, and then there's the twist, and they're not quite the same thing. Rich Reviews, thoughts on the passing of Harley Race? I don't know who Harley Race is, so I do not have thoughts on the passing of Harley Race. Sorry. Hawaiian Shirts, thoughts on the new Joker movie coming out in October? I guess I don't know what the direction you're going with the question is. If that's because, like, I wouldn't assume it would be a big. It's not looking to be a big blockbuster tentpole film that you want a $200 million opening, so you drop it in the summer. I'm not thinking that that's what they want it to be. It's not. It doesn't have the budget for that. The nature of it's pretty rated R, and they're looking for like a Taxi Driver with the Joker. That feels like a fall film. And the thing that could be interesting is they also could be putting it in the fall because they looked at it and they went, maybe there's some Oscar stuff here. Maybe, like, we might have something really special. But those would be my thoughts. That fall feels good to me. Like, the nature of the film, I would imagine, feels like a fall film more so than a summer film. Questions. Rich Reviews, do you think the creator of Sonic the Hedgehog movie should have bowed to public pressure? Do you think the creator bowed to public pressure? I think, since we're talking about the look of the character, I'd have to wonder if sorry. I would have to know more about what was going on behind the scenes. If they were having kind of an internal debate, and they were kind of going, all right, we're not really sure which way we want to go. Let's put out the trailer, and if they respond this way, we move forward. If they respond this way, we delay, and we fix it a little bit. But, we're trying to do Sonic right, and let's pay attention to what the fans feel. And we tried something creative, but let's see what people think. That's one thing versus if he like really believed in it, like, no, this was the right thing to do. And then it was like, oh, people don't like it. Oh man, I better change it. That's no good. It's weird that it's weird to me that they went that far down the path of something that's so obvious. Like, it's the design of Sonic. You couldn't do focus test groups. Like, that's even like the book I'm going through, what 1 million followers. That's what half of the book is about, is focus testing things. And like, you can do that on Facebook. And like, they could have spent $100 and gotten, 10,000 people's feedback on different designs or something like that, and been like, okay, people want Sonic to look like Sonic. They don't want him to be radically changed. So, weird. Reviews, what is the worst movie adaptation of a TV series? I don't know. I'd have to have a list in front of me off the top of my head. I don't have that. I don't have that kind of marked. I think there's just a lot of them. There's those mediocre kind of forgettable things that just kind of happened, and then we moved on with culture, like Miami Vice, Starsky and Hutch. That they just happened, and then it's like, oh yeah, we did get that, didn't we? But I don't have a specific one that comes to mind. Rich Reviews, thoughts on the new trailer for The Irishman? Like I said before, if I don't put a trailer reaction, I probably haven't watched it and I haven't watched it. I haven't even seen a still from it or anything like that. Like I just don't watch trailers unless I'm doing something with it normally. It's kind of my default function, so I haven't seen it. Zyndine Fellaini. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sure I mispronounced that. So I'll call you ZF in the future because I just don't know how to pronounce. I'm very sorry about that. Hey, Sean, new to Patreon. Just wanted to let you know I'm excited to see you are for the Disney Plus Marvel shows, and if you could rank them by excitement. I did. I put out a video ranking my excitement level for the different Disney Plus shows. So I put that out the day after I did the movies. Yeah, I mean, I have a 15-minute video on that exact thing. So once this stream's done, you got to already have a video for you. Andrew Toole, you've probably mentioned this at some point. What are your thoughts on Sherlock and Luther if you've seen them? Is Sherlock the one with Cumberbatch? Or Elementary's, yeah, the Sherlock. So I've only seen series 1. I didn't really connect with it. I need to give it another try probably. I'd probably invest a little bit more time into it. I didn't connect with it too. Well, there are things I liked about it, but I didn't. It just kind of felt like at arm's length to me. It just wasn't as good as I was hoping it would be. And I haven't seen Luther. I've not seen one episode of Luther. Cody Watson, thanks for the take on It Comes at Night. I like the ones that really makes you think. I'll check it out soon. And if you want to think, that's what this movie did. Like I went with a group of like 5 friends and my wife. My wife walked out before it was over because some stuff that happened in it. She doesn't do certain levels of intense. She walked out. And then we finished watching the movie, walked outside, and my friends and I, we talked about it for about 30 minutes afterwards, right there in the parking lot. And we don't normally do that. It was a very diverse group of people like that. It's not like the people that the one guy I always go with that I always talk after the movie. Like this was a weird group of people. And we started off and one guy was like, yeah, I hated that. That was weird. And by the end of it, he was like reading articles and theories on his phone. And he was like, oh, I loved it. I think I loved that movie. I want to watch it again. Which that's kind of pretty cool when a movie can do that. Like I said, I don't plan on rewatching it. But when a movie can make you go, I hated that. And then 30 minutes later, just for thinking about it, you go, maybe I loved that. I'm not really sure which one it is. That's pretty cool. Rich Reviews, are there any recent trailers that you constantly see that make you shake your head? Not shake my head. I some of that's just because I just go see everything and review everything, talk about everything that I try to be positive. So I don't, excuse me. I don't think there's any that make me shake my head. I just kind of like go along with it for the most part. Yeah, I mean, I just try to appreciate cinema. Just because a movie's not for me doesn't mean I don't want to hold that against the film. So I don't think so. ZF, and also, have you seen the Peaky Blinders? And if so, what are your thoughts about it? For me, it's the 3rd best show of all time. I have not. I had a friend recommend it to me, and I think we watched the first 1 or 2 episodes, and then just life happened, and so we didn't watch too much of it. And that was whenever it first debuted, when there's only one season. We watched the beginning of the show, and it didn't hook us right out of the gate enough that we kept watching it. So, unfortunately, I don't have thoughts on it. Oh, I gotta... Okay. So, I gotta... Sorry, I'm thinking out loud. I've got to... Trying to figure out what I'm going to do with you guys, and then my Fast and Furious ranking goes live in 3 minutes, and I've got a sponsorship deal related to it. And I didn't hear back from the sponsor on something, and so I don't want to get myself in trouble. But then again, I want my video to go up when my video is supposed to go up, and I think I told them in advance when I was going to go up. So I'm not really. I'm gonna have to read an email real quick. Sorry. Make sure I'm not going to get myself in big trouble on something. Let me try and answer a question while reading at the same time, which would be a clever trick in itself. What you know? Are you an incandescent or LED light bulb kind of guy? I don't remember which one is which. Probably LED lights. I like more mood lighting. That's kind of like why I like my Edison bulbs and stuff like that. I don't like big light from up above. that's just too prominent. I don't like things like that. Like, I don't like classroom lights or anything like that, like at all. Okay, let me find my email. Please, okay, let me know about the exact time, maybe through time zone, publication in advance as soon as possible. Okay, I'm gonna have to pull this video real quick. Sorry about this. I need to make sure this video doesn't post at a point in time where I'm gonna get myself in trouble. All right, next question while that loads up. ZF, LED all the way, to be honest. Rich Reviews, do you think there will ever be flying cars? I'm sure there'll be cars that can fly. I don't think that that's what we'll drive around, because I think that it sounds like something would just be too dangerous. When basically our cars are mini planes, there's just that many more ways that people will get in wrecks. And so I don't think that that's something that you would have just for the general public. Or want for the general public. I wouldn't want for the general public. I don't trust you guys driving flying cars in my neighborhood. Well, it looks like that's not going to work. So maybe this video's going live no matter what. I hope I don't get myself in a lot of trouble. Hawaiian Church just saw 47 meters down and thought it was pretty good. Did you see it or like it? Yeah, I have a review up on my channel. I liked it for what it was. Wasn't great. Wasn't terrible. I didn't like the end. I didn't like what they did for the end. Like they cheated at the end, and I didn't appreciate that very much. That instead of, they wanted to have certain things happen in their finale, and so they cheated to be able to make it so that they could happen. I didn't appreciate that very much. But overall, I enjoyed the ride of what it was, and I'm excited for the new one. Actually, Stallone's daughter's in it. My wife loves shark movies, and so she'll be there with me. A week and a half from now, whenever we see that one. Richard's favorite James Clavell novel. I've never read a James Clavell novel. Games and groceries. Are you a fan of any sports? Being from Texas, I'm sure football played a part in your life. Yeah, so I don't really follow any sports. If you looked on Patreon, I announced I'm going to do a fantasy football league with you guys. So if anyone wants to join that, respond to that comment that I left, or post that I put earlier today. So I kind of follow a little bit of stuff like that. But I played baseball, I played basketball. Of course, football's huge around here. So, but I'm not like a fan of anything in particular. That you wouldn't call me a big sports person or anything like that. I just try and have a little foot in it. If there's anything that I would, I like watching MMA a little bit, but I don't follow any of it really. Rich Reviews. I gotta close all this stuff out because I gotta get over to that video and make sure I don't get myself in too much trouble. Rich Reviews, are you amazed that you and Pete Buttigieg are roughly the same age? No, not really, because you kind of hit that moment in time in your life where you realize, wow, I'm old enough to run for president, and that means there are going to be people running for president that are my age. I'm at that. I've made it. I'm old. I can be president. Maybe I should throw my name in the hat or something like that. Maybe try and run as the libertarian. So, is my next step. Leverage this platform here to be president of the United States. David, suggestion for the end of 2019. Top movies of the 10s and best picture winners of the 2010s. I'll have that. I will have some end of the decade content. So that is my plan. I will definitely have my top 10 movies of the 10s. I don't know if I'll rank the best pictures of the decade. I might do. I might do. I'm not a. That's just not my brand. I'm not a best picture person. So, I haven't even seen all of. I didn't see all of last year's best pictures. I just saw like 2 of the previous year's best pictures. That's just not me. So I don't know if I would do that because I don't know that I have anything to add to that discussion that would be useful for anyone. ZF, I'll change my name. Don't worry. And didn't see the video. I'll go see it. Yeah, you'll. It's about 2 weeks old, but it's exactly what you're wanting, I'm imagining. Rich Reviews, would you do a ranking video for the worst of the decade? I don't think I'll do worst of the decade, but maybe. I'll have to, if I want to have a whole kind of suite, a whole playlist, like 3-4 videos that are my, closing out the decade. They'll come out the first week in January. I don't know. Worsts aren't as much fun. I don't think. And they don't work if you don't see a bazillion movies. Like I can do worst right now because I'm seeing 100 movies every year, 100 new releases every year. But doing worst when you don't go to the movies 2 times per week is a little bit dishonest. And then you start watching movies just to watch the worst. And that also feels a little dishonest. Andrew 2, what's your favorite sports movie? Warrior, Rocky 4, Rocky Balboa, Creed. So fighting sports movies. The Field of Dreams is of course great. Hoosiers. I don't know. I need not coming up with a basketball movie at the moment. Major League's a lot of fun. Rich Reviews, would you do a ranking video for the... Oh, sorry, did that one. I'm gonna answer these real quick, so don't throw too many questions at me. What you know? Have you seen The Princess Bride? Oh, of course, I've seen The Princess Bride 100 times, of course. So it's of course delightful little family adventure that has such a unique film. There's no other movie like The Princess Bride. There's no movie even kind of like The Princess Bride. Everything about it is just so weirdly distinct to itself. So quotable. You get swordplay, funny. I mean, it's got all of it. So of course, I mean, hundreds of times. I already showed it to my kids too. So yeah, if the first 2 Peaky Blinders episodes are kind of slow, but the show picks up after the third, what are your thoughts on the Kingsman movies? I really enjoyed the first movie. I was very disappointed by the second one. The first one was like this fresh, different take on the spy genre, and then the second one was like, oh, you did all the wrong directions. Like, they kind of casually killed off some people that survived the first movie, and then casually bring back dead people. It's just really, I think, dropped the ball with the second one. David, these live streams are a great way to get my workout in. Already did 3.5 miles in the last hour. Impressive. I'm going to the gym after this. Actually, I had these apples I was hopefully was going to eat before we did this, and then got talking too much. Andrew, if you haven't seen The Princess Bride, I don't know if we can be friends. Yeah, of course I've seen it. Cody Watson, any recommendations for those movies that make you think? I've seen Fight Club already. I don't think off the top of my head I could come up with too many of them. Just kind of been talking for an hour, so it's tough to make recommendations when you've been talking for an hour straight. Yeah, so David, is it inconceivable that you didn't see it? It is. That is correct. The Shadow Reviews. I just got the Star Wars trilogy on Blu-ray and watched Empire yesterday. Awesome. Great movie. Great trilogy of movies, too. White Shirts. Hey, bro, would love to be in your fantasy league. Just put the message on the post in... I posted it earlier today, so you just go to my Patreon page in the posts. It's the last one before this. So comment on that. That's what I'm going to do to kind of get the first batch of get the batch of people together. And then, if we get too many people, I'll have 2 leagues or whatever. But that just comment on there so that I can message your username, because right here I can't message you on this. Cody Watson, Empire is easily the best Star Wars movie. Sean agrees. Gator goes, what was that book that you mentioned, 1 million in 30 days? Yeah, it's 1 million followers by Brendan Cade. 1 million followers. And it's kind of all over the place. It's a very prominent, it's pretty new. Rich Reviews, Cody Watson, yes. Cody Watson, thank you for the longer stream. I enjoy your channel. Yeah, they're all about an hour long. Every Saturday I go for about an hour. Sometimes I go a little longer, sometimes a little bit shorter, but they're pretty much all over 40 minutes. I don't think I've ever gone over an hour and 30, or I've never gone over 90 minutes, but I try and keep it right at about an hour. All right. Looks like we are good to go. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back next week to talk, and hope you enjoyed the new setup and it all kind of worked for you and everything like that. Just doing a little test for my podcast. I'll probably actually do some demo episodes of my podcast on the channel. That'll be on the Patreon page. It'll be for you guys to kind of test it out while I try some things, get your feedback and everything. So, but talk to you later. I got to make sure I'm not in trouble and make sure my links work.